Our next topic here is Biosol, the 1 millionth acre. And this is presented by Dan Aberhart, President of Aberhart Ag Solutions. Dan's vision and drive has taken Aberhart Ag Solutions from a fresh startup to a company with millions in annual sales. A born entrepreneur in the face of Aberhart Ag, Dan is synonymous with performance. Dan grew up on his family farm and now 15,000-acre grain operation in Saskatchewan, and later studied ag at the University of Saskatchewan. Spent 15 years in marketing, sales, business development, and so on before founding Aberhart Ag with his dad and brother in 2015. Together, the family has introduced an elemental sulfur product to farmers that is agronomically, logistically, and economically superior. Thanks to a network of partners Dan built in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Biosol is fast becoming the sustainable fertilizer of choice. He is adept at both building long-term business relationships and mentoring next generation of entrepreneurs. He understands how and why to implement technology and can explain the methods behind it in everyday language. Dan is an engaging public speaker, and we'll find out soon. He radiates enthusiasm in talks that are well-researched, witty, and inspiring. Please welcome Dan Aberhart.
Good morning. Good morning. Such a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Craig, for setting the groundwork for me. Excellent job on the presentation, and mine ties right into it. And of course, Craig is a mentor and somebody I look up to in the business. I want to be Craig when I grow up. Taurus Ag is, a decade and a half ahead of Aberhart Ag, but we certainly share a lot of the same sentiments. And I also want to give a shout out to Manitoba Ag Days board, of which I am now a member. Thanks to Craig Davidson for nominating me. So I tell you, the nuts and bolts that go into this show, starting on Saturday, to make this possible, to represent agriculture in a very special way, not just to those of us in the ag community, but those that enjoy the fruits of our labor. So let's have a big round of applause for Manitoba Ag Days for the great job that they do. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is I do like to do interactive presentations, and I brought something special. I did have 24 of these, but then I realized, am I really going to run up and down the stairs 24 times while telling you the story of Biosol Nation? It's probably a little bit hard on my cardio. But I just want somebody from the audience to help me with a little bit of audience participation and ask me a question or heckle me or give me an objection, and I will give you this barbecue sauce, and we can set the stage for how we can have an interactive conversation here today. Kristen Phillips, GM of Manitoba Ag Days. You must have a question about Biosol. How do I know if it's going to work if I apply it into the fall? Well, it's just a giant leap of faith, Kristen. This is a long walk. This is really challenging myself.
How's that body temperature?
Yeah, I'm working hard. I should have my Fitbit on, get my steps in. That's a great question. I think for most people, it is a challenge such that, how do I know this is going to work? How do I let go of the vine? What are these guys really doing? But I'm going to break it down in a way that's very simple. I'm already out of breath. It is sulfur. And what we know about sulfur is pertinent to the conversation. What we know about elemental sulfur is pertinent to the conversation. But there's some unique characteristics about our particular product that lend itself to the way that we're approaching this. So, Kristen, we did apply Biosol on your fields this fall. Okay? So, first time ever, letting go of the vine. And so what I would say to Kristen is, first year, you're good. Second year, you're good. Third year, and so on and so forth. Really, you need to look at your uptake as a rule of thumb. But the reality is that because of the variable particle size, the high rates of sulfur we're putting on top, 2 to 3 times the amount of sulfur of actual S that you would put on in a 5-year period in one application. Because we're putting it on top and we're allowing the elemental sulfur to oxidize, and because we have the benefit of the compost as sort of a lunch kit for the biology that takes place, you will have a consistent supply of sulfur. And the best way to tell is not necessarily a soil test, although I can show you some aggregated soil test results, which show the efficacy of the product over time, over thousands of data points. But the best test is a tissue test to show the percentage of sulfur in the plant and the N/S ratios required for those plants to get to their goal. So because of the nature of the product, because of how we're approaching the practice, because of the price point, which is a half to a third of conventionally manufactured sulfurs by the pound, we can put down enough high rates on top of the soil surface, let biology do its work, and check our results with tissues. And that's really been our guiding light. If you have enough sulfur in your plant, if your N/S ratios are great, if you're hitting your max yields from years roughly 1 to 5 as a rule of thumb, we're doing our job. We're on the same page. And this fall, we experienced some pretty significant milestones in that regard in our network. First of all, we reached 5 years of crops on our farm with biosol as a continuation of a good, strong, long-term sulfur program. Our farm is 1 mile into the Saskatchewan border. I don't even know if my dad and my brother came today, but one of the great whys of our company is having a family company, because I certainly wasn't a good fit on the family farm, but having a fertilizer distribution company has been fun. But really our guiding light at Aberhart Ag has been the practices of Aberhart Farms. So we reached our 5th crop on biosol on a good number of acres from the initial application of spring 2015. And that was one of Terry's best crops. At the field day this summer, where we had the crop intelligence, we had 5th year biosol. That was a great milestone. We want to get past that threshold in Saskatchewan and Manitoba for everybody to get that comfort level. The product started out in 2013 in Alberta. And they're a little bit ahead of us. They're getting into the reapplication. Okay? But we're just reaching that milestone. The other milestone that we reached this fall that's given us more and more confidence in the product working just as good or better than we hoped was 1 million acres. So if you think about it as a 5-year product, we have no repeat customers yet. We have no repeat customers. They will be starting this fall to come back. We've only covered any of our customers' new acres with biosol. So that is significant. So you think about that land base, the agronomists using this product, the large producers using this product, the people involved. It's been a big success. So the practice is very simple. Logistically, you're going to remove sulfur from your regime with the exception of biosol. That's what we recommended. That's what people have done. Some people have added supplements for different reasons, but generally, we have the confidence, for the reasons stated at the beginning, that this will work in the first year and many years to come. So the big thing that everybody's got to be thinking about, and we felt your pain this fall when it came to the short window, we didn't have the opportunity to spread, much like you didn't have the opportunity to harvest, like we all know we're capable of. One of the greatest tragedies is not hitting that harvest stride, right? That was a challenge for everybody. And we had the same issues, but the opportunity this spring is logistically to get sulfur out of your drill. And so many of our guys are approaching fertility in such a way that they're spreading or broadcasting their nutrients on. And what's happening is their investment in their drills, which are, what are these rigs these days? $1 million rigs? If you do the math and you take out something that's bulky and causes plugging issues and immediately will increase your efficiency by 15, 20%. Not to mention if you start to use that spreading tool in different capacities for getting things like your nitrogen on with, nitrogen stabilizers, potash, There's some talk of putting phos on in different circumstances. A lot of the guys in our network with the spin spreaders are now going phos and seed, and they're talking 400 acres of fill versus 70, which in a spring like that, like we're going to come into here, is going to be critical. Agronomically, we want to supply sulfur to all of our crops, and you may not know or have thought about a whole lot, or done the math, with the yields that we're growing today, which are continually being pushed, how much actual uptake you're using, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The advantages are low salt index. The advantage is it doesn't leach until it becomes available through biological activity, right? Which in a very wet spring is going to be a critical thing to keep your nutrients where you need them, right? And also due to the mobility of sulfur in the soil, if you have light, sandy soils with low organic matter and high elevations, which is typically the case, you can keep that sulfur releasing to the soil profile and supply those light organic matter, low organic matter, sandy soils. And the whole key to this is that we're operating at a half to a third of the price of a pound of sulfate. Do you guys have any questions at this point? Does anybody want to earn some barbecue sauce and make me run up the stairs again? Anyone? I love when your curiosity helps me tell the story. You have a question? You wanted some barbecue sauce, right? You're close. Okay, so the story began in Alberta, where Neil Weens, who's actually here today, small town Saskatchewan farm boy, he started composting in order to get nutrients out over a farther range in the feedlots of Alberta. Now, he is a master composter as well as a master chef. I've eaten at his house many, many times. I think the two skills are akin to each other because he likes to play with ingredients. He likes to bake the cake. And one thing that you should know, you're going to have this question nobody's asked. It's probably the nature of this amphitheater. And I'd love to give this barbecue sauce away to the person that would ask it. But you need to know, when you purchase Biosol, the compost that comes with it is certified as a soil amendment, Class A. What does that mean? No foreign debris, no pathogens, no heavy metals. We also test it for clubroot, okay? You can put the compost and Biosol at high rates on your soils with that certificate of guarantee. The stuff is regulated, okay? That's a very important thing to know because I think that's one of the first things that comes up. And it's certainly been something that's talked about a lot in the community. Oh, there's garbage in that. You're putting garbage on your field. No, we're not. It's not garbage. It's finished compost. It's not even a subtle point of difference. It's a world of difference. And if you meet the people at the city of Saskatoon where compost is coming from, you know what? They care about the same things you do. They care about the environment and doing the right thing and soil health and recycling and doing things that make common sense. And this is one of the largest things that you could ever do to displace any environmental footprint you might have some guilt about. If you're going to Jamaica in February, you do this, you got the carbon offsets, trust me. We're talking it as environmentally friendly as you can get. And on that point, last week, I met a young farmer in southwest Saskatchewan that warmed my heart and told me we're on the right side of history when it comes to the environment and everything that's happening in the world. So he told me, having got back from some sort of week-long seminar with a large line company focused on sustainability opportunities. This is an opportunity for what our customers want. He met a guy that's going to pay him more for his product based on sustainability story on his farm. And that's really exciting stuff because we are taking large amounts of waste away from landfills. To date, 100,000 tons because it's 10 acres per ton. So we've removed 100,000, about a third of that is compost, 2/3 of that is elemental sulfur. Elemental sulfur is produced as a byproduct of the oil and gas industry around this planet to the tune of 100 million tons a year. That's a big number. 90% of it's used in mining and manufacturing. 10% of it is essentially waste for various reasons. It might be the waste base pad elemental sulfur has a little bit of dirt in it. It might be a purity thing. But all we're doing, that is often the essence of innovation, that is the game changer of putting two things together that are relatively simple, compost and elemental sulfur, and you get something new. And this is a pile of biosol, had my name on it at one point, held in trust for the dealers on the GFL pad. Green for Life is now who owns biosol. $5 billion waste management company has a fertilizer company. Interesting times. So the unique thing about this product is that it stays outside. You think compost? You think elemental sulfur. You can see the piles of elemental sulfur like pyramids from Google Earth, from the satellites in Fort Mac. There's a ton of this stuff. We can be putting it on our fields to become available through biological activity. Without interrupting these cycles you're going to hear more about in the regenerative ag group, the mycorrhizae. Because we know that synthetic fertilizers interrupt that cycle. Why? Because it's one of the tenets of regenerative ag. So this product actually fits really nice into that fold as being a natural product. But this is where we get tripped up a little bit, folks, on the paradigm. I can't put it in my Super B. I can't put it in my hopper bottom bin. I can't put it in my air seeder. All this stuff I bought that I loved and I want to use. It stores outside. Can we get our heads around that? There's no storage costs. It doesn't go bad. You'll never have a bin of it that's caked, that won't come out, that you got to tweet about in anger. Right? That's significant. So part of what really gave us a purpose and a cause since we started in 2015 was developing the means to get this to the market. And originally, we thought we were going to be an island. We were sort of the rebels of the fertilizer industry, and we put together this network of trusted applicators who had the specialized equipment to put it on. But the reality is, I think over time, people are going to see this as more of a mainstream option than you know. Why? Because we're going to have to use options like this, and all things being equal, it's a great opportunity. So nobody knows what we're doing. Here's some video of us putting it on the ground at Langeberg. People were phoning and asking my old man, what's with the rotten grain at the bin site? And we were saying, hey man, this is fertilizer. But this product only goes through loaders, conveyors, side dumps, end dumps. It's handled much like gravel, spin spreaders, right? So this actually was an opportunity to change people's practices, farming practices, whether you got it for yourself or you let somebody else take care of it. And I love that we have, really been espousing the opportunity with broadcasting because it's frictionless. It's a really economical way to get nutrients on. And for the investment of $150,000 new spreader, you can be changing the way you farm. And of course, all of our guys putting this product on throughout Saskatchewan and Manitoba, you can find on our website, all are required to have certain standards in terms of safety, in terms of accuracy of application, in terms of having their certification for this and that, in terms of their calibration and the specialty equipment that's required. So there's scales, there's cameras, there's specialty equipment that helps get this product on accurately, and the spin spreaders have actually been something we've been able to dial in with incredible accuracy. I feel like I still have all my barbecue sauce. I don't feel like I'm winning here. But this is the beauty of the cycle on a very large scale. You may have a loaf of bread from Calgary or Saskatoon or in the future Winnipeg that gets separated from its packaging at a facility from GFL. The goo then gets composted. Then the elemental sulfur comes in from the oil field. It gets blended off. Why? Because it's economical, because it reduces the dusting and the risk of explosion normally associated with manufactured elemental sulfur, because there's biology in it, because it makes a lot of damn sense to recycle. Because a lot of recycling doesn't actually have an end use, and I know because I've seen it on Penn and Teller from YouTube. If you ever watched their episode of Bullshit about recycling, it's revelatory. So how do you skin a cat? Many, many ways. For us, we start with the price point. So this is going to be less than 20 cents a pound for the product itself of actual S. Other sources are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, right? You look at liquid sulfur, we can put 3 times the amount of sulfur down functionally than you can get for the same price of liquid sulfur, and you don't have to handle it. Agronomics are such that the variable particle sizes, everything in this product, if you look at a jar of biosol, which is at our booth at UCT Pavilion, there's a portion of it, the 10-20% of it that's like dust. It's highly available the first year. That's what you're using initially. So as long as we get that on evenly, you're going to find a range of release related to the particle size. Some of it's going to be immediately available. It's like cash. You're having a good time in Las Vegas. You need to top up. Go to an ATM. It's there for you. Some of it's going to be like a long-term GIC. This product overlaps into the future. That's the nature of it. With the amount of product that we put down, which is over 150 pounds of actual S for a 5-year application, or just over 100 pounds for a 3-year application, you're still going to have overlapping product going into the future. This is a building program. We're not putting down 25 pounds of S for a canola crop and hoping that it doesn't wash away. And the thing to remember about this is, we couldn't have designed it better. It's released with Mother Nature's good grace. So when we have good growing conditions, temperature, moisture, and oxygen, that's what makes the sulfur available to the crop, because it's a biological process, and that's related to the surface area of the particles. So if we look at the 10-20% of the particles that are less than 150 microns, we've got 80% surface area, the old 80-20 rule. That's what's immediately available. Do we have any more questions? I'm going to start whipping through the rest of this presentation. Now, as I mentioned to Kristen in her first question, the only time I had to run up the stairs today, tissue testing is our metric. And so we know every crop needs sulfur. You may not have thought about it, but even on average yields with an average rotation, in this case, we're looking at a 90-pound uptake. Are you fertilizing for that? Are you investing for that? So I wanted to show you this one slide here. Essentially, we know that sulfur interacts with all the different nutrients. It's not on the Mulder chart. Now, the reason that Kristen was using biosol is because she has heard nothing but good things about biosol on hayland. So you see a visible difference in a very short time. And when we go tissue test, we want to ensure that we're getting the youngest leaf tissues only, because sulfur is not mobile in the plant. It actually cannot cannibalize from the older leaves. Protein is one area we found sulfur is very functional to get your N to S ratios right. That's a big impact, and we know that that's paying. But just to wrap things up a little bit on the original people using biosol starting in 2013, over the years, you can see the trajectory here from 2004 to 2010. Matt Gosling from Premium Ag was spreading AMS for his customers in order to help them with their logistics. Then they got into Tiger 90s. You can see we've got the average mean of sulfur parts per million in their soils from all these soil tests, 164, 182 soil tests one year, 286. The parts per million are going up over time. And then when they got into the biosol in 2014, the biosol brought the sulfur levels up yet. So the program is very simple. We essentially over-apply, given the price point. We put it on top so it can oxidize properly. It becomes available to all your crops throughout the rotation through biological activity. It gets sulfur out of your drill, which in a year like this is going to be absolutely critical. and you are going to be buying into something that is going to be incumbent upon us all to do, and that is get on this train, get ahead of it, and start talking to our customers about the solutions that we're using, because there's a ton of them, to help them understand why we're great people and bringing them their steak and their bread and all the other fine foods that we get to experience. So with that, I don't know, I think I'll leave it there. Half an hour is a quick jaunt to get through it. But I do appreciate your attention. Thanks a lot for having me. And I'll hand it over to the moderator.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. I think we have time for a question or two. Yeah, let's give him a good hand of applause. Question, yes, right up here.
Thanks. What is the suggested rate for a 5-year application? And have you seen a lot of variability in how that 5-year lasts depending on environmental conditions and whatnot?
Great question. The 5-year rate is
Does
200.
he get some sauce?
He gets some sauce. He's earned the sauce. Yeah, I'd love to give it out. There you go. The 5-year rate is 220 pounds of product. It's 0, 0, 0, 70. So at 220 pounds of product, 10 acres per ton, we're going to do 154 pounds of actual S. And we have been talking a lot more about, the confidence that we built in the product. A lot of guys are looking at going to 3-year on rented land or for cash flow. That's another option. But it's kind of interesting because you compare the price per pound and the cost of application every 3 years. And it actually is a lot more efficient financially to put on a 5-year rate. And what was the other part of your question? Sorry. Yeah. Absolutely. So people are always looking down the scope, the barrel there at uptake. If you can keep a track record of the yields that you've had, that's highly functional. But because of the level of oversupply that we're putting on, like in most cases, you'll probably only use 2/3 of the product that you put down. You probably have a third left over. But the level of release is based on the growing conditions, which is basically dictates what kind of crop you have. Water is the #1 nutrient. So if you're getting a lot of great yields, you're going to have a lot of sulfur release. But again, we're oversupplying in such a way, logistically and financially, you can afford to do so. Our guys in our network have been growing their biggest crops in the last 5 years. My brother's had some of the best yields consecutively in the last 3 years here. And it's been working well, as many other producers and agronomists in our network. But you do want to be cognizant of your uptake and keep a running number of that and use the rule of thumb for that. But the tissue tests are the biggest indicator. And of course, you can rescue a crop with liquid sulfur if you needed to, if you had sulfur deficiencies. But across the million acres we've been working with, we've been having great luck, 99.99% satisfaction. So,
very good. Thank you, Dan. I think we'll leave it at that for questions this morning. On behalf of Manitoba Ag Days, here's a small token of appreciation. Thank you. Well done. Yes, give him a good hand of applause. Thank you.